and sharing everything.
Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday afternoon with us. My name's Bryn Durgan and I'm the Director of Programming here at Bookstore One. I know there are a lot of familiar faces here, so thanks for coming back. And for anyone who this might be your first time in the loft, we're so happy to have you. If it weren't for customers like you coming to our workshops and book signings and author talks, we wouldn't be able to do a fraction of the programming that we do. So it means the world to us. Thanks again. Now, this is one of our more special events that we have in the loft, not only because we have a cookbook, but also a piano and a rabbi. So lots of ingredients today. So now let me introduce you to the person you're here to see. She has served as the rabbi of Temple Israel of Catskill in Catskill, New York, since 2012. Since 2015, she has acted as outreach chaplain for the Jewish Federation of Northeastern New York. In this capacity, she visits Jewish residents and offers holiday celebrations at long-term care and assisted living facilities in Greene County and parts of Columbia County. She has been a member of the Greater Kingston Chevra Kadisha since 1998 and vice president of the board of directors since 2017. This organization is devoted to preparing the bodies of those who've passed away for Jewish burial. And as you can see, she is also a performer and composer. And if you can't tell by this brief introduction, she has a great heart and a passion for service. And she's written a book alongside James Beard award-winning author Susan Simon. It's called The Cook and The Rabbi, Recipes and Stories to Celebrate the Jewish Holidays. And if you haven't picked up your copy yet, we only have about 5 left at the register. They've been selling out, so grab it while you can. And of course, let's give the warmest welcome to Zoe B Zak.
Thank you so much.
And I first wanted to ask Zoe to tell us about the birth story of this book.
Well, I'd love to share that. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Right? So the birth story is kind of a fun one for me. Pre-COVID, after Yom Kippur, I received an email from a woman I didn't know, and she said, my friend and I came to Kol Nidre, and we were blown away. We'd love to take you to lunch. So I still haven't learned to Google people who want to meet me, because really part of being a rabbi is every day I meet people that I don't know. And so I guess if I did that, I'd do nothing but sit at my computer. But I got to the restaurant, and on my table, it was covered with books, maybe 12 books. So I was a little confused. It looked very interesting. It turned out the 2 women, one was Charlotte Sheedy, who's now become my literary agent, and she was bringing me some of the books of authors who she's repped. She's an amazing, amazing woman and amazing agent. The other was Susan Simon, who Charlotte introduced me as saying Charlotte's written 8 books, cookbooks, books about food. She's lived around the world. And so Charlotte said, we love what you do. We love who you are. We love what you did. I want you and Susan to write a book together. And so I said, well, the truth is, if you ask me in 5 minutes to go lead a service, or go write a new piece of music, or go give a concert, or go teach a class or a lecture, I'd be no nervousness whatsoever. You could tell me there's thousands of people, I'm completely at home. But if you tell me I need to write 2 paragraphs for my Temple Bulletin due in a month, I'm anxious. So I said, I promise you, I'm really honored. I was very sincere. I wasn't trying to be humble. I was dead serious. This really isn't for me, but thank you. So she's a very gracious woman. She listened very patiently. And after I finished my spiel, she said, all you have to do is write like you speak. We heard you speak. So I still wasn't convinced, but what convinced me, because I thought about it, I prayed about it, is I have for years been going to every kind of place imaginable to lead Passover Seders, Hanukkah celebrations of all the holidays. I go to prisons, I go to assisted living facilities, communities with people with developmental disabilities. I go to churches, I go to synagogues, I go to interfaith gatherings, you name it. Some Passovers I've done 12 or 15 Passover Seders. So when I thought about this book, I thought, well, maybe I don't have to do 15 Passover Seders. Maybe if I write this book, it can help get what I'm trying to my love of all this out to more people. So I finally was convinced, and then Charlotte shopped a deal, and we were really blessed to get a deal with Norton Books, which kind of blew my mind. So, as I say, this is my co-author Susan's 9th book, and this is my first. Thank you.
Norton's one of our favorite publishers at the bookstore too. So you have mentioned that your goal with this book was to reveal a glimpse of the hidden sparks of each holiday and their connection to one another, which I think you've done masterfully. And I think in large part because of the interesting structure of the book. Can you tell us a little bit about how the book is laid out?
So the book is laid out in Q&A form because Susan, who grew up, she is Jewish, she identified largely as a cultural Jew, the food being a huge part of her connection, which I really related to because that was true for me. And she really wanted to learn more about, she's been celebrating Passover Seders her whole life and Hanukkah, but really get more of the inner meanings and tradition and history, which she was counting on me to provide. So she asked the questions, and she would ask me about, in each of these holidays, there are 14 chapters, and she asked questions in each chapter about that holiday to gain deeper insight. So that was also a really fun format for us.
Tell us about the moon phases, which also feature prominently in the book.
Yeah, so the moon phases, our tradition is so rich and so delicious on every level. It really is. And our calendar is so complex. Right now, we're at the perfect time to talk about this because has everyone seen the full moon? The last couple, mind-blowingly beautiful. Well, normally, this would have been the holiday of Purim, this full moon. But our calendar is a lunar solar calendar. It's not strictly lunar. The Muslim calendar is lunar. If you notice, if you have any Muslim friends, Ramadan is sometimes in the spring, in the summer, in the fall. It can be any time of year because their calendar is lunar. The Hindu calendar is also, there are other people that have lunar calendars, but that's what happens in the lunar calendars because the months, when you add up the days in the 12 months, it's about 9 days short of 365 days. So that's why a holiday will keep shifting. In the Torah, it says the Passover is a springtime holiday. So in order to have a springtime holiday, our sages are so brilliant how they figured out this calendar, the balance with the sun and the moon. So every 2 or 3 years, they actually insert an extra month into our year. And this year, because 1 month ago, we had the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, where we celebrate the trees and everything trees give us. Full moon, the 15th of Shvat. A month later is the 15th of Adar, where we have Purim. But in a leap year, which this is, we end up having Purim 1 and Purim 2. It's like having February 1 and February 2. It's exactly what it is. So we had the full moon of Tu B'Shvat, the full moon of this first of Adar, the month of Adar. In 1 month, we will have the full moon of Purim, and a month later, the full moon of Passover. There are 2 other holidays with full moons. You'll have to see the book. And I just love this whole thing about the moon because our holidays follow the calendar, which follows exactly where the moon is. So what Susan did is she's also the artist responsible for all that beautiful artwork in the book. In the beginning of every chapter, I write a little something about where the moon is for that holiday, and she drew a little teeny lovely moon where the moon is in its phase.
And it's so poetic, what you've written.
You want to hear the one for Passover?
Yes.
All right. Passover says, so you can see she has a full moon there, a beautiful full moon, next to her awesome Seder table. Proud as she could be, with her 3rd full moon holy day in a row, she is ready to birth our people into freedom.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So with Passover coming up, while we're on the topic,
Yes.
we talked a little bit about some non-traditional items that have been added to Seder plates. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Does anybody here add anything different to your Seder plate than what you grew up with?
I kind of grew up with the orange.
You grew up with the orange. Do you also add an orange? Gail, you add an orange? Does anybody here add something different to your Seder plate? Okay, so we have 3 people who add oranges and an orange. Okay, so for many years I co-led a Passover Seder at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, which is a maximum security women's prison. And from the very first time I walked in there, it changed my relationship to Passover forever. Because going to a prison where many of the women that I met had been there for decades, many would be there for their entire lives. I get to waltz in there, bring my accordion, sing songs, have this amazing thing, and then I get to go home to my daughter and my life and my shul. And so every year, the only reason I stopped doing it is when I moved to Catskill, where my synagogue ended, it was just too far away. But the rabbi that I worked with there, who was their chaplain, Rabbi Joanna Katz, she would ask the women to bring something to put on their Seder plate. So I'm going to read a little from the book. And this is especially because I still have an orange on my Seder plate, but I learned something new about that orange. The addition of the orange came about in response to the AIDS crisis of the 1980s. Right.
That's not what Susanna says.
Okay, so let's keep going. Scholar and author Susanna Heschel, daughter of famed Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, was inspired to place an orange on her Seder plate to bring awareness and support to the gay and lesbian communities. I hadn't heard that either, right?
No, that's...
Everyone was asked to take a section of the orange, say the appropriate blessing, thanking God for the fruit of the tree, and after eating the fruit, are you ready for this? Spit out the seeds of homophobia. Imagine doing that at your Seder. I mean, just picture it, right? Or at your parents' Seder.
During COVID.
Yes, during COVID, let's add that. The practice, minus the spitting of the seeds, caught on like wildfire, and subsequently, the orange has come to represent the entire LGBTQ plus community and how vital their inclusion in the Jewish community is. For these reasons, an orange has a permanent place on my Seder plate. Now, I want to add about a few others, if I may, because, okay. So this talks about going to the prison. It was at Bedford Hills where I first saw the addition of non-edible items. Imagine that. I know, I see the wrinkling brow. I understand. Non-edible items to the Seder plate. Now, first of all, imagine you're in a maximum security prison. There was a Jewish deli nearby who donated all the food everywhere and would send matzo ball soup and brisket, and it was absolutely beautiful, stunning what they did. Rabbi Joanna invited everyone to bring something they wanted to add, a tradition I immediately adopted. There was a lock and a key placed on the Seder plate at the prison. Something that struck me so deeply that I can still picture it as though it was yesterday. There was also an olive for peace in the Middle East. And ever since, I placed a key for the women of Bedford and all those imprisoned, plus an olive on my Seder plate. This idea fascinates me so much that I learned of other things people were placing on their Seder plates. Artichokes, symbolizing interfaith marriage that the Jewish people have been thorny about. Fair trade chocolate, supporting work standards that prohibit forced labor. Pine cones, bananas, acorns, cashews, and more. Now this, just to let you know, wasn't just where I heard about 2 people that put pine cones. This was like entire communities who were putting each of these things on their plate to symbolize an oppressed people. When COVID-19, when the pandemic started, people started adding beans, symbolizing an inexpensive food that one could easily store, right? We were all storing up our food. And pineapple, imagine that on your Seder plate, for the first responders, because fruit has a hard exterior, protective of its sweet inside. During the pandemic, I added a fortune cookie. Now, they are often made without flour or any grain, to show solidarity with the Asian community and to stand against racism and violence. Now I'm placing chopsticks on my plate in place of the fortune cookie, so there's no worry or confusion about whether there was any wheat involved. I've added sunflowers for the Ukrainians. And recently a friend brought walnuts for the Seder plate because a whole shelled walnut resembles a brain. This was a symbol for mental illness awareness. At many vegetarian Seders, the roasted lamb shank has been replaced with a roasted yam or a beet. What will be on your Seder plate? Now, I just want to add one thing, which is, you might think, this is wild, this is crazy. The idea of adding different things on the plate was started in the Talmud, where the rabbis knew that not everybody could get all those foods, the symbolic foods that we eat to tell our story. So they said, maybe you can't get a lamb bone, right? You could use a yam or a beet. So they started this, they planted this idea in the Talmud of substitutions.
You were telling me about one of your favorite dishes in the book, speaking of plates. Can you talk to us about that?
I can. So my co-author, as I said, this is her 9th book. People always ask me if we do most of our readings we do some of them together. We both live in New York, but we could kind of cover more ground doing them separately. Some communities want us together, so we go together. Everyone asks me, have I made these? I haven't made any of them, but I've tasted a lot of them. She's a phenomenal cook. And with Passover coming up, there is a vegetarian matzah lasagna that's out of this world. If you are vegetarian or know any vegetarians in your life. And there is for Shavuot, which comes, of course, 7 weeks after Passover. And there is something called now I have to remember here, Shavuot. It's a rus. I don't know what it's called. Salad rus. When I had this at Susan's, it came out, it looked like a sculpture. It was this dome with beets and eggs. Really could be in the Modern Museum of Art. Absolutely beautiful and tastes even better. Yeah, her food is remarkable.
We were talking a little bit about, too, I was wondering if there was a through line in the book, whether it's like an ingredient or a way of preparing food that appears over and over again in recipes. And Zoe, you were saying that there is not really, and you started describing why that is. Can you explain to the group?
So the through line is Jewish custom, which of course changes depending on where our people live, what part of the world, whether it's Eastern Europe, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Mediterranean, all over the world, whether someone's in Turkey or China or New York. So I would say the through line is that there are all these foods from all around the world that Jewish people have made and are making. And that's kind of the fascinating piece for me.
And did you want to share with us a song?
Well, yeah, thank you. I would love to. So how does everybody remember the order of the Seder? Does anybody have a method that you remember the order of what we're going to do in a Passover Seder? You read the book. Exactly. We have a Haggadah, right? There are millions of Haggadot, and we follow that because there are so many things, right? So many foods we eat, so many blessings, things we dip, all kinds of things. And of course, that has the order. So another way is that you can You know, when we learned our ABCs like that, I still remember where P is in the alphabet by singing that song, or Q, or N, or any of the other ones. So for the Seder, which means order, Kadesh, that's raising the glass, saying our bracha over wine or juice. Urchatz, we're washing our hands. Karpas, dipping the parsley in salt water. Yachatz, breaking the matzah. We break the matzah, half of it goes and gets hidden for the afikomen later. Magid, telling the story, right? There's a million ways to tell that story. Rotza, now we wash our hands with a bracha, with a blessing, because we're going to bless the matzah. Motzi matzah. So now we're beginning to eat the food. Maror, the bitter herb. Korech, the sandwich, right? We have a Hillel sandwich on Pesach. Shulchan orech, the meal is served. Tzafun, we look for the afikomen. Barech, we say a blessing at the meal. Hallel, we say, give thanks to the Holy One with Psalms. Nirtzah, and the Seder is completed. Kadesh, urchatz, karpas, yachatz, magid, rotza, motzi matzah, maror korech, shulchan orech, tzafun barech, hallel nirtzah. It's a very nice way to remember the order. And if I may I add something else? Please. Okay, so this you are thoroughly invited to join me. The vier kashas. Vier kashas? 4 questions. This is the refrain we come back to over and over. What is the big deal with this day, right? Why is this night different from all other nights? Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halelot, mikol halelot. Why is this night different from all other nights? Shebechol halelot anu ochlin. Sorry, I changed it. Chametzu matzah, ay ay ay, halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, matzah, halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, kulo matzah. So on all other nights, you can eat bread, cookies. I just had a rugula. I had a little piece of a bagel. I had a matzah ball. You can have all these things, right? Not on Pesach. So Pesach, we have matzah. That's the first question. Shebechol halelot anu ochlin she'ayirakot, she'ayirakot. Ya ya ya, halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, maror, halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, maror. On all other nights, when it comes to vegetables, we eat whatever vegetables we're blessed to be able to have. On Pesach, we've got to have maror, the bitter herb, reminding us of the bitterness of slavery. The third question, Shebechol halelot ein anu matbilin, afilu ba'am echat, afilu ba'am echat, ya ya ya, halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, shetei pe'amim, halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, shetei pe'amim. So normally when we have a meal, I mean, maybe we dip foods into another. If we're really having some fun, maybe some pita and hummus, right? We had that last night. Pita and baba ganoush. Maybe we have, I don't know, some delicious sweet potato fries and we dip them in ketchup, but we can, we don't have to. On Pesach, we must dip foods 2 times. If it once wasn't enough, true rabbinic fashion, 2 times. Once we dip parsley into salt water. The other time, we take the maror, the bitter herb, and we dip it into the sweet charoset, symbolizing that there's always hope for healing bitterness. 3rd question, 4th, the last one. Shebechol halelot anu ochlin ben yoshvin uvein mesubin ben yoshvin uvein mesubin yai halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin. So I don't know how you grew up, but my brother Bill and myself and our other brothers, we grew up with our mother, blessed memory, saying, get those elbows off the table. Sit up straight. Stop slouching, for Pete's sake, right? On Pesach, we're encouraged. Have a pillow, have a cushion, lean, because we're free people. And free people get to do that.
I think we should clap. It's so moving. I got chills multiple times. Yeah, so beautiful. I can imagine too the reception to your book has been pretty moving. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've heard and the experiences you've had?
So, writing the book was monumental enough for me, never having written a book. And I actually never thought about what would happen once, all I could think about was writing. And I never thought about what it would be like once it was done. Like, it honestly didn't occur to me. Because I was just so focused. And it has been such a joy. First, we've had wonderful responses. And every time I get to be with a group like I am with you all here today, I meet new, wonderful, amazing people. I meet people who are connected through other people in my life. And I feel like I don't have to do 15 Seders and 12 Hanukkah celebrations and for every holiday, because it's not really sustainable, even though I've been doing it for a very long time. So, maybe I could do 4 or 5 Passover Seders and not. So it's just a beautiful feeling. Beautiful. I have a lot of stories, but they've all been really touching.
Yeah, it seems very deserved. What questions do we have from the audience? Any questions? Any comments?
It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Dasha. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Would you like to end with a song, perhaps?
Yes,
Well,
please.
that was going to be my question. Can you sing another song?
Oh, can I sing another song? I like that question. So, the whole thing about Passover that I find to be the most important for me is the teaching that nobody is free until everybody's free. Like, I'm very free. Thank God I'm a free person. But there are people in this world that are not free, and it's part of our tradition that we're told to notice those who are struggling and who are not free and to help them. And that's a really beautiful thing about our tradition. So we're not just celebrating, yeah, we're free. We're not really totally free. If we're all really siblings with every person on this planet, until we're all free, we're really not. So I want to share something from Isaiah. And the words are, nation shall not lift up sword against sword. I'm not going to study war anymore. That's always my inner prayer for peace. And I love this image when you think about implements of war being turned into plowshares, into things that can grow things, connect with the earth, and it's just a beautiful image. So, in case you know this, please join. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Ya 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 ya. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. So let's keep the applause going.
Thank you very much.
And then Zoe will be sticking around to sign your books. And as I said, if you haven't gotten your copy yet, then head downstairs and grab some. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. If they're going down to get a copy, should I be signing down there or signing up here?
Yep. So Zoe will be signing right up here.
Okay, good to know.